Committee to order. Would you please call the roll?
Cavell.
Here.
Kowal is on her way. McGilvray.
Here.
Powell.
Here.
Charles.
Present.
Long.
Here.
Moss.
Present.
Markham.
Here. Great, thank you. Everybody please rise for the pledge if you are able. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Terrific, thank you. Next up, we have approval of the minutes from the August 24th, 2022 meeting, moved by Commissioner McGilvray, supported by Commissioner Charles. Any discussion? All in favor of approving the minutes, say aye. Aye. Opposed, say nay. Minutes are approved. Next up is approval of the agenda for today. Does anybody have any? I need a motion. Commissioner Charles, supported by Commissioner Long. Does anybody have any comments or additions or deletions at this time? Okay, seeing none, all in favor of approving today's agenda, say aye. Aye. Opposed, say nay. Okay, next up we have public comment. At this time, we open the floor to comment from the public for any item that is currently on today's Finance Committee agenda. If you're here to speak, please come to the end of the table, tell us your name and where you live, and you will have 3 minutes to speak. So, good morning.
Good morning, Commissioners. My name's Catherine Kennedy from Orion Township. And I would like to address first the fact that you guys are giving 5% raises to everyone, despite the fact that people are losing their homes because the tax increases have been so high. And the most egregious of all was yesterday's LAGO meeting, when the vote had already been taken and the resolution adopting compensation adjustments for the county commissioners was agreed to as 2.5% for 2023 and 1.5% for 2024, which is more reasonable given the fact that we are actually already in a recession that they're trying to redefine. And Woodward had the chair put it in recess, which I actually thought was adjourned because we had already covered all the items. Came back in and they did a reconsideration, I believe was the word that he used. And they changed it to 5% raise for 2023 plus 3% raise for 2024. So not only did the Board of Commissioners, because Woodward came in and had the vote redone, that meeting, at the end of the meeting they called it back for recess. That also applies to the countywide elected officials and all sorts of other places where this is exorbitant costs that the citizens can't support. In Orion Township, if I had a measly $250,000 house with a 125 taxable, I have to pay $550 a month now before the 6.46% increase in millage assessments that'll take effect in December, and before any of the NOTA or SMART bills that you're pushing, in addition to all the other expenses you've already occurred, and the additional millages for parks, because the parks didn't need to be as separate with the director. They changed the merit position to a director position, added environmental categories, but the actual adoption that they did was simply the UN resolution that makes no sense. So when number one solution to climate change is no poverty, and I see my woods in my neighborhood disappearing for low-income housing by a master plan that was modified without the assistance of the citizens. Only 3 citizens in my community had any input into the master plan that they're using to create high-density housing that didn't exist and PUDs that didn't exist in our zoning. So I actually have an extraordinarily big problem with the zoning that's going on here and the coordination of efforts that is going against the citizens. The fact that we just completed an Oakland tax foreclosure sale was just August 12th. How dare you have an online company auction off our property to foreign people? All they needed was a form and a credit card. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Is there anyone else from the public Who wishes to address this committee at this time? Seeing no one, I will close public comment and we will move into communications. I need a motion to receive and file. Commissioner Kowal, supported by Commissioner Powell. Does anybody have any discussion on any of these items? We can do all three at once, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Does anybody have any discussion on these three items? If not, let's prompt the vote, please. Oh, we can do a voice vote on receive and file?
You want the vote now? Okay, we'll pop the vote.
Okay.
The director's back there saying something else.
I listened to this one, I'll just tell you that. I listened to you too, but
Overruled.
Yeah.
there you go.
That's a good way to put it.
Okay.
I think you could.
Everybody vote?
Yes, yep, you have 8 yeas, 0 nays.
Okay, motion carries. We have received and filed the communications. All right, next up is our departmental recommendations. Item 8A, extension of the BSNA software contract number 008301. I need a motion. Commissioner Kowal, supported by Commissioner Charles. Good morning, Mr. Tim.
Good morning, Commissioners. Mike Tim, Director of IT. So this is the first of 3 resolutions I have this morning. It's the only one that's related to contract. And BSNA is a critical piece of software that we actually, in Oakland County government, we support 51 CVTs actually use this software for their tax and assessing needs. So this is also used by, obviously, the Equalization Department here at the county is the biggest user of it. And, as you know, we perform that tax and assessment service for several of the CVTs as well out of the Equalization office. So this is a very specialized piece of software. It is the only software that is recognized by the state of Michigan as acceptable use. So because we support not only CVTs, but also here at the county, and it's the only acceptable available software, we are recommending to extend this contract for another 5 years, and that's what this resolution is for.
Okay, Commissioner Long.
I'm sorry, I can't find my little speak
Question
thing.
button.
Yeah, you have to go
Yeah,
back to the
speak.
front.
Oh, okay, because I was on the resolution, my speak button. On the 51 of the CVTs, do we charge them to use this BSNA software? Or is it a contract with them? Or do we just do it?
Well, I'm sure we don't just do it. We do get license reduction. They get license fee reductions because
Okay.
we provide, a global license for all of them. But I will have to find out if you
Okay.
need to know whether it's included in the services we provide through the Equalization Office.
Okay.
Or is it a separate
Yeah, I'd like to know that.
service agreement from
I mean, it's not going to
IT.
make my vote different, but I just would like to know if they pay, for that, the CVTs pay for that also.
They definitely do. I'm just not
Okay.
sure whether it's an invoice from IT through an IT service
Okay.
agreement or if it comes out of the Equalization
Okay,
Office.
just
but-
whenever, if you can email me that. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Anyone else? Okay, seeing no one, let's prompt the vote, please.
You have 8 yeas, 0 nays.
Motion carries. Thank you. Don't go anywhere, Mr. Tim. Next up is item 8B, the IT Infrastructure Modernization Program. Need a motion. Commissioner Charles, supported by Commissioner Powell.
Yes, thank you. So this resolution is basically, the funding, allocating the funding for our IT infrastructure, which is inside of our data center. So here on the county campus, in the IT building, we house several hundred servers, terabytes of storage. So that's storage for files that support applications as well as storage for people keep copies of their Microsoft Office documents. Those could be stored on these storage systems as well. Also, we provide what we call a backup and restore utility. So everything that we have is backed up, in some cases multiple times, for both archival purposes as well as just a disaster recovery. It's good practice. And we have a backup data center for disaster recovery purposes. So we basically duplicate in order to provide, if there's an outage and hardware does frequently fail, we have the ability to switch over to alternate processing, alternate storage, alternate network. And that's a separate contract that we manage. So this project is to upgrade that infrastructure. Just like we need new laptops, desktops, et cetera. Servers age out. The current server infrastructure is at the end of life. Our storage infrastructure is at end of life. And the older it gets, one, it becomes difficult, or in some cases, it is not even possible to get support, just like an old vehicle. It also is more prone to failures. So those are things that affect business operations if we don't do in our replacement project. So as part of our capital plan, as part of our budget process, we do plan out the 5 to 7 year lifespan of these assets. And this has been planned over the course of the last several decades, frankly. It was replaced through a project 7 years ago, and it's time now to replace it. We have the funding available through a technology assigned fund balance, and that's the source of funds for this, and I'd be happy to answer any other questions.
Okay.
Get back to my button.
Does anybody have any questions for Mr. Tim on this item? Just keep us running and,
We're doing our best.
don't want those crashes. Okay, if nobody's got anything they want to add or ask, let's prompt the vote, please.
You have 8 yeas, 0 nays.
Excellent, motion carries.
Thank you, Commissioners.
Thank you. Next up is item 8C, Imaging Program Expansion Project. I need a motion. Commissioner Charles, supported by Commissioner Kowal. I'm assuming this is you again, Mr. Tim.
Yes, it is. Thank you, Commissioners. So this is the resolution that actually Director Kyle, Jen, and I spoke to at the last Finance Committee meeting. And it's 12 projects that will use the Laserfiche platform. So it's document management, it's document routing, and should provide operational efficiencies in these various departments. Several of them are courts, which is the reason that it got some additional exposure, and we talked about it at the last meeting. This is actually the resolution to fund that project. It's about $3 million. We have the funding in, again, a general fund assignment that's already been made last year, and $450,000 of ARPA money has also been identified to support, especially those projects that we think will benefit in supporting COVID. So if there are any questions about that, I'd be happy to answer.
Okay, thank you. Anybody have any questions?
Just to summarize, what's the total cost of this? I'm trying to go through this.
It's just over $3 million.
Okay. Oh, I see. Is it
2.6
and the 450?
Right.
Okay, got it. Oh, 450 is from ARPA funding, or ARP funding. Okay, got it. Thanks.
Okay, so is it fair to say that this effort is going to take us a long way toward digitizing the court system and elevating them to being electronically able to do what they need to do rather than have stacks of boxes of files and,
That's absolutely the intent of Laserfiche as a platform for the entire county. And yes, these projects will do that for each of these courts that submitted the request. The other thing, though, if you recall, I believe it was the district court budget hearing, they are actually dependent on some systems to help manage documents, electronic document management. Some of that comes from the state, and we'll continue to work with the district courts and the state DTMB and the state, the court systems to support the district court team. But that's not entirely in Oakland County's control, just as it's not in the district court's control. And then I think you'll recall the probate court also had a system that they were very dependent on the state DTMB court system to provide. It was also document management. So there's lots of types of document management, but these will absolutely help those departments.
okay, good. And then as far as the tablets at the district courts, particularly, there was some conversation that if they could have electronic check-in at the counter, that would help with their staffing issues that we have with them. And is that part of this as well?
That is not part of this project. I will have to check and see if that's a project that's been submitted or if that would potentially be an ARP project candidate as well.
An ARPA project, is that what you said, potentially?
I will have to check.
I can speak to that. I mean,
Thank you.
that project will be on the list for consideration and potential funding with the $2 million in ARP funding that the Finance Committee added to the FY23 budget. So, as we get to adoption of the budget at the end of the year, we'll make sure all departments have an opportunity, to put in requests for projects that help address COVID using IT tools, and then get those rolling, in terms of which ones are funded. But it's on the list.
Okay, good. And then the courts had also talked about potentially having video in the courts so that they could do more virtual. So that falls into one of those two buckets I'm looking at.
The
here.
audio video, I know for sure was intended to be part of that ARP funding as well.
Okay, good. Just want all these balls to be kept
Right.
in the air so that the people who raise the concerns see that something is happening. Okay, good. Anybody else have any other questions on this? Commissioner Charles?
Yeah,
Thank you, Mr. John.
I think it was important enough for me to just want to make sure it's in the records and so that you're hearing it. But whether we're talking imaging or any digitizing of what is otherwise known as hard copies, we have I'm hoping we have two things in place. Contingency on backups as well as encryption and just that two-way safety of where it ends and where it starts and how it gets to those spots. Could you just speak to that in terms of your approach?
Something more than yes. So yes, we have that. The Laserfiche platform actually resides in what's known as the GovCloud. And the GovCloud is the second level of security from the AWS, the Amazon Web Service systems. Their levels of cloud support, if you will, come in multiple levels of security, and the GovCloud is their second highest. It is certified for CJIS, which is the highest level of encryption that we have to deal with here at the county. It's a higher level of encryption than financial standards. It's a higher level of encryption than HIPAA standards, a higher level of encryption than other PII standards. CJIS is the highest one that we deal with. It's criminal justice information. And the GovCloud is certified for that. We have that in writing and approval from the state of Michigan, who manages the CJIS standards for the FBI. And we store some of our criminal justice data in that GovCloud as well. And that's why we pursued that certification. So it includes encryption, it includes backup, it includes recovery. And in the case of Laserfiche, there's also logging for transaction monitoring, who has access, et cetera. So, yeah, it's got a significant amount of overhead, behind it. And frankly, it's those kinds of things that, IT people do behind the scenes that are expensive. That's why stuff takes us a while. That's why stuff costs a lot. That's how we protect the data. Without that, yes, any of us could just keep the data on our local PC and not have all that protection.
Right, thank you. That answered it.
Thank you, Commissioner, for the question. Anybody else? Comments, questions? Seeing none, let's go ahead and prompt the vote.
We have 8 yeas, 0 nays.
Okay. Next up, we
Commissioner,
have-
if,
Yes.
or Chair, if I may, I did get an answer back to Commissioner Long's question on the BSNA. Each of the CVTs pays for their usage based on their parcel count.
Okay. All right, so there's a calculation, so thank you.
Yes.
Excellent. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioners.
Thanks for getting it.
Thank you, Mr. Tim. Okay, next up is item 8D, sponsorship of the 2022 Power of Girlhood program. I need a motion. Commissioner Cavell, supported by Commissioner Powell.
Did you skip one?
Did I skip
Yeah,
one?
I think
He is the
so.
city park trail.
Yeah, I think
Clausen.
Clausen one's.
That's
That's the
Oh, no, she's right.
Yeah, they were
She's
switched.
got it.
They were
We need to
switched?
refresh your page.
Oh, I was about to say, yeah, mine ain't.
Yeah,
Yeah,
just before
you're
the
right.
adoption of the agenda.
You're right. The girlhood
Is
one's
mine,
first.
am I in the right order? Okay.
So, yeah.
So the Girlhood
Oh, got
program.
it, okay, got it, okay.
Okay, so who's going to speak to this?
I can
Oh.
just give an introduction.
You want to just go down there, so,
Yep.
and you can stay there too, because you have the next one too, right?
Madam Chair, I think you also have Brenda on the line as well.
Who?
The lady over the program.
Oh, okay, great, thank you.
I don't know if she's still on the line.
Oh, okay.
She did
Okay,
send
yep.
us an email that she had to get going. And unfortunately, Commissioner Jackson did just have a family emergency, so she wasn't able to present. And so I've learned a little bit about this organization, and yeah, very pleased to be able to present this to the board. The Power of Girlhood is a leadership development organization that I think many of you are familiar with. They service adolescent women 8 to 18 in Metro Detroit, and their efforts are focusing on developing ways for these young women to become engaged, competent, and thriving citizens throughout Oakland County. The funds specifically are going to be used to expand existing programming that will support not only, let me find that real quick. Will support not only the editorial team full of high school and college students, but also the production of their major events as the International Day of the Girl and the Tweens Leadership Institute.
Okay. And this is a proposal to use Board of Commissioners Special Projects funding.
Correct. And so following the approval from committee and the full board, BOC staff will work with the institution as well as Corporation Counsel to draft an agreement and get that signed.
Thank you. Commissioner Long.
I feel like Charlie today. Thank you. So I just want, and maybe you don't know this, but you might, but is it open to all the girls in Oakland County?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Because they all need empowered. Thank you.
Yeah, there is
We don't want them to get to our age before
Right,
they're,
Before they're empowered. Yeah.
Commissioner Powell.
And I just wanted to let my colleagues know that this was the lady that Jackson presented for our Black History Month,
Oh.
right?
Yep.
Yeah, so it was that lady is the recipient, if any of you remember.
Okay.
So
Thank you.
we've honored her before too, so, all right. I just
And
wanted
of
to
course,
let
she
y'all know
was
that.
on the line and hung out for most of the meeting, but she did have a previous obligation. She may be jumping on towards the end.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Charles, did you raise your hand?
I was like, did I push a button? No.
Okay.
I found that one.
Anybody else? Commissioner McGilvery.
It says in here that it's for Detroit.
No, that it's a Detroit-based company. They actually service Wayne, Oakland, and Macomb County.
But this money will only service Oakland County residents? is that
Yes,
correct?
and that contract that I spoke about with Corporation Counsel will stipulate that, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, if there's no more questions, let's prompt the vote.
I got one more.
Okay, motion carries. Excellent. Next up is item 8E, another Board of Commissioners special project, sponsorship of the Clawson City Park Trick or Treat Trail.
Yes, and this one, again, is
I
being
need a
presented.
motion before you
sorry.
tell. Commissioner Powell, supported by Commissioner Cavell.
This one is being sponsored by Commissioner Penny Lubes. Unfortunately, she had a family obligation today and is not able to attend, but this will be a transfer directly to the city of Clawson to sponsor their park trick-or-treat trail that's been going on for a number of years in the community.
Any questions? Commissioner Long.
It's nothing to do with me. I think they must be getting their donuts and cider somewhere else. So I see donuts and cider, so I'm saying, okay, it's nothing to do with me. So
You're on the other-
record. I'm not getting $5,000. Yeah.
You're on the other end of the
Yeah,
county
so I know
just
they probably
about.
found it that direction.
No
All
conflict
right.
of interest.
Right,
Yeah,
right.
no conflict of interest. I
Thank
saw
you.
cider and donuts.
Thank you,
Oh, no.
Commissioner.
Well, yours the best.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Anybody else have any comments or questions on this item? Let's prompt the vote, please.
She got good stuff. Our family go every year. Probably a couple times a year.
Bring us some for next
She
year.
always do. She always try to bring us some.
You have 8-0.
Today.
All right,
No, do
thank
the
you.
meeting.
Motion
Our
carries.
meeting, board
Excellent.
meeting.
And that concludes the
No, it's too much. They good. though.
department recommendations. So next up, we have, oops, I got myself out of the meeting accidentally. Let's go back to, no, wrong one.
I go to her stuff every year. I be asking.
Okay.
When is it open?
I'm good.
Is it open?
I'm good. Okay, next up, we have the Legislative Affairs and Government Operations Committee recommendations, item 9A, the Parks and Recreation reorganization of the Parks and Recreation Department. The presenter is Chris Ward, Director of Parks and Recreation.
You weren't popular when you were here, but now that you're gone.
I know.
We love you.
Popular to me.
Farther away I go, the more popular I am, apparently. Look forward to being the ambassador to China or something like that.
We need a motion. Commissioner Cavell, supported by Commissioner Kowal. All right. Welcome back.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the committee. Appreciate you taking up this item. This is an accumulation of multiple items affecting personnel over at Parks and Recreation. The first factor there is a shift in priority in having some staff to support those priorities. With our Parks Commission, we made a change administratively to add duties related to environmental sustainability, which is a high priority for our Parks Commission, of which 3 members are here. And the second position that is included in your resolution here is a DEI coordinator position, which is a lower level position than our countywide officer, and it's a little more focused on the delivery of services in the county and going the extra mile to reach people that we aren't reaching right now in communities where we haven't had as strong of a presence consistently over the years. And of course, DEI is not just issues of race and ethnicity, it's also issues of age, gender, and ability as well. So it's very important that we have our parks be welcoming for all people in the county and have them access and enjoy them. There are multiple positions in here that are a realignment of classifications to comparable positions with that were reviewed by the HR department and have recommended those changes. A lot of positions in here as well, dealing with kind of chronic understaffing on the front lines, groundskeepers, et cetera. Those folks were really spread thin during the pandemic. We lost And maybe at some point, we'll get the trustee program back through the sheriff's office. Maybe we can hope for crime to go up a little bit, and we can get people in the jails.
That
But
was a joke. That was a joke.
Yes, yeah, no, yeah. But they did support a lot of the maintenance and cleaning of our park facilities, and that fell on our staff to pick up the gaps, just as one example there. And there's also kind of more of an administrative reorganization here that provides us the ability to move positions from unit to unit. So the way things are structured right now, say if I were to want to move a position from one park to another park, I would have to come back over here, which I don't think is probably your intention or desire, that we wouldn't be able to have that nimbleness to shift our resources to address needs as they come along. And then finally, a few positions that are related to the millage initiatives that were part of our approval of an increased millage in 2020. Additional staff to support our RAP program, our mobile recreation program, and staff to support the invasive species control work that we're doing now that we had not been doing in the past. So there's no cost to the county general fund, general purpose budget. All of these positions are funded through proprietary funds gained either through our millage or user fees. With that, I'd be happy to answer any questions or concerns.
Okay, thank you. Anybody have any questions for Mr. Ward? I do want to just mention that your comment about how we have areas of the county which have been underserved, it's a lot of areas in the south, and I know that you're looking at redeveloping some city parks in some communities, and we went and looked at one a couple of weeks ago, and I applaud that you want to do that. Redevelop what's out there as well as make sure the underserved areas are being targeted. So I think it's a great move in that direction. Commissioner Long.
And I just want to further that, I think the west side of Oakland County is lacking a little too.
Agreed.
South and the west. So by us, I mean, we have Lion Oaks, and I mean, there's not a lot out that way too. So I just want to put that on record. Thank you.
And you are correct. We live near each other.
Yeah.
But I will say that the new millage did allow for funding to local parks from county funds in areas that are underserved. And my community did obtain a $100,000 grant to help develop a new park out in our area. So it is, those funds are starting to get out into the wider county, and I think that's good. Commissioner Charles.
I didn't think about it till South Lyon was brought up, or I should say Lion Oaks, that one of the golfers reached out to me, member of my church community, and did say that they have to return their tees. And so I just wanted to bring that to your attention, which to me is, I've never heard such a thing.
What?
And I felt like, not in Oakland County, we don't require you to return your tees. So
I'll check in and get back to you.
please do. Yeah. You go break up, I mean, you go borrow them and return them back to the club.
Never heard of that, and I'm a golfer.
I just wanted to bring that to your attention.
All right, we'll check into that, get back to you on that. And I appreciate the comments, Madam Chair. It sets us up well because our Parks Commission did unanimously approve our ARPA recommendations to the board, and it'll be coming your way hopefully very soon. We can take some action and move forward on all that.
Excellent, good. Anybody else have any comments or questions? Okay, well, let's go ahead and prompt the vote.
I lose like 3 or 4 teas every time I play.
$6.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ward. You're welcome back anytime.
Okay. Just go pick them up off the green. You have 8 yeas and 0 nays.
All right.
Okay, motion carries. Next up, we have Human Resources, other action. Fiscal year 2023 salary recommendations for non-represented employees. I need a motion. Commissioner Cavell, supported by Commissioner McGilvery. Okay, and hi, go ahead.
Good morning. Thank you so much for letting me present on this issue today.
Tell us who you are on the record.
Sorry, April Lynch, Deputy County Executive.
Thank you.
We are, as recommended in the executive's budget, requesting a formal approval of the 5% general salary increase for all non-represented employees. For clarity in this, for this record, this does exclude judges, as that is set by the state court administrator. Heather Mason, our supervisor of compensation, always wants to make sure that we're clear on that in our recommendations as well. In this is about 15 recommendations for new classifications and other adjustments that departments have made during their budget hearings with all of you. So that's there's a lot of different moving parts into this particular resolution that supports everything that has already been in the budget. I'm open for any questions.
Okay. Commissioner Long.
I must have slept it last night. So on these, I'm on the committee report. So on like cheap purchasing, it says exempt, so they're not getting the 5%?
No, that
What does
just
that mean?
that just determines what classification they're in, whether they're exempt or
And
not exempt.
Oh, is it for the benefits?
Yeah, for
benefits?
yeah.
Okay,
for,
thank
yeah,
you.
for salaries. Yeah.
I forgot that. Thank you.
Okay. Anybody else? Commissioner Moss, good morning.
Good morning. Why 5% of all numbers that you could be proposing?
Sure. Yep. So I can have Kyle come up here as well. But back in June, when we presented the budget, we talked a little bit about taking CPI, other costs of inflation and average, and seeing what was going on as it relates to other employers throughout the Southeast Michigan. That 5% seemed to be right in the middle and near where we needed to be for our employees for this next fiscal year.
I believe we were talking also in terms of 5% earlier than in June, too. You're talking about, are the assumptions upon which you have based that 5%, there's still operable?
Yeah, we can do that.
Yes, I think absolutely. I mean, I think there's three key factors. As we were crafting this recommendation in terms of what's going on with inflation and the impact on employees and their personal budgets. Certainly we've seen inflation start to flatten out, but obviously the report yesterday that hasn't changed as much as probably everyone would like it to. The second is the market conditions around us in terms of what our competitors in both the public and private sectors are doing. I think we continue to see, higher wage increases for those competitors. And then third is what can we afford in terms of our property tax revenue growth and ensuring that our budget remains structurally balanced, and we continue to see, a softening. I'm not sure that's the right word in terms of the housing market. We're not seeing the same acceleration in housing prices, but we're also not seeing a decline in housing prices. So, we think that the property tax estimates that the budget is based on are still valid, and appropriately cautious.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Anybody else from the commission? Commissioner Powell.
Can you just explain to me again, what was that Me Too? What is that again?
Yeah, sure. Yes. So the majority of the unions have what's called a Me Too or Me Also, which means that they have a floor. So a lot of them had either 2% or 1.5 plus a Me Too, which means that if the general salary increase is greater than what they have in their contract, they would also get that as well.
Okay, got it.
And we took that into consideration in the budget.
Yeah, you told me before. I just
I
want
get
to
it.
remember.
It's okay.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Anyone else? So basically, we're keeping up with where we think we should be, and we're being consistent across the workforce.
Yes.
Is that a fair statement?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, anybody else have any questions, comments? If not, let's go ahead and prompt the vote.
You have 8 yeas and 0
Okay, motion carries. Next up, we have item 9C, Human Resources again. Resolution approving biweekly employee health care contribution increase. I need a motion. Commissioner Moss, supported by Commissioner McGilvery. Hello. Again.
Hello, thank you. Again, April Lynch, Deputy County Executive. I also have with me Stephanie Bedricky, who is our supervisor of our Benefits and Wellness Division, in case we have any detailed questions that we may have regarding our plans. As we, if you think back in, I think it might have been April or May, we presented our Benefits Task Force findings and a 5-year plan to help manage our healthcare costs. Part of that was, as we looked at and holistically how to pay for the comp study and things of that nature, taking a look also at the other big portion of employee costs, which is our benefits. And so with that benefits task force, that includes about 33 employees, and it's all of the unions are represented in that as well. And we came up with a 5-year model and a 5-year plan of how we could integrate both administrative changes to the benefits as well as some support for increase in contributions from our employees. And with that, this is our first of our 5-year plan of where we're asking for a biweekly increase in our contributions to $10 per paycheck. This would be across the board for all of the non-represented, and then most of the unions that have come, all of the unions that I have presented in the last year have approved this as well. And this is in alignment with the 5-year plan that was created by the Benefits Task Force as well as with the unions. And that would take effect in January. The cost savings to that would be about just under $1 million, about $900,000 a year in our fringe benefit fund. This will be the first adjustment in contributions from our employees for some employees since 2008 and for others in 2013.
Okay. I'll open it up to the commission. Commissioner Long?
All right, thanks, April. So I'm just a little concerned about our whole benefit package as, for our employees. So we don't have any pensions anymore, correct?
Right.
We have retirement still.
We do, yeah.
And
401.
then, what year did we start the health savings account? Because I'm not on that, and I think I'm on a better plan, and I'm worried about what's the health savings account. Because it's not as good of a benefit, correct, the health savings account?
You're talking about the retirement?
No, did we,
the HMO.
does everyone get the same, since, I've been here since 2002, didn't the insurance part change to health savings account since then? And I thought when we voted for it, it wasn't as good as what I had. Is that correct?
So let's provide some clarity. So there's the
Yeah.
health savings account. The only health savings account we have now is with your retirement. You get
Okay.
something in your contributed
All right.
every biweekly into a retiree health savings account, which is for retiree health care.
Okay.
We also still, we have a flexible spending account, but that's pretty normal for the course, and that's contributions made by the employee if they want to use it for co-pays or things of that nature. So anybody hired in after
2014 is when the incentive plan is for retirees, if that's what we're talking
I
about.
don't think so. Incentive plan.
Yeah, I thought, I'm just thinking, I thought some of the new employees had to have the health savings account after a certain year. So was it just you gotta
Just
jog my
retirement.
memory.
Just
I know
retirement
something
shift
changed.
from-
Is it only the retirement people that are off the,
Right.
like what we have?
Yes.
Only the retirement, okay, that makes a difference. All right, I'll let Charlie talk. Just kidding. It's a big yes. Thank you.
Yep,
I
you're
knew
welcome.
there was something
Yeah,
that changed.
that was the big change.
Commissioner Cavell?
Yeah, thanks. So I know we did a comp study, and that was before I showed up, but other than that, what is the reason for doing this now?
Sure, it was part of the benefit. So it's pretty typical for employees to help support some of the costs of healthcare. And so when we were taking a look at some of our the ways that we had to control some of our costs in healthcare, we needed to take a look at how we could all work together on those pieces. And so we brought the group together, all of the employees, to talk a little bit more about how we can work together, doing some stuff behind the scenes, but as well getting some support from our employees. We are, this is important to note, we are an opt-out community of the PA 152, which means that if you do not, many communities opted out, into requiring all of their employees to pay 20% of the healthcare cost of the premium pay. So we are considered what's opt-out. So in fact, next month or beginning of November, we will be actually bringing in, again, another request to opt out of that so that we don't force our employees to pay that 20%. So this is called a hard cap. So just trying to manage our healthcare costs in some way. We see an average over the last 10 years of just under 6% each year of healthcare. Now, you can never typically recover from that. It's one of those you're trying to control costs as much as you can. So we wanted to see if we could take a look at helping, helping control those costs through, employee support as well as administrative. This will be, like I said, the first time that they've had an increase in our contributions since some people 2008 and 2013. So in our 5-year plan, there's not much of an increase in that, but this is our first one.
But I'm wondering, so why do it now, right? Inflation, as the document shows, right, 8%. DTE is gonna up people's bills by 8 or 9% starting in October.
That was, sure, that was the
Why
plan.
not do it next year?
Sure.
Why, yeah.
It was just part of our 5-year plan.
Okay. So there could be.
For every time you delay it, it's just a little bit more that we're incurring in those costs. This
Sure.
year, we're expecting about 11% increase in our healthcare
Sure.
rates.
And the $900,000 savings, that's that you, when you say savings, it's.
Well,
is the-
revenue.
Right, so it's more revenue for the county, but someone's still paying that, and that would be the employees paying that.
Right. It'd be about $260 a year.
Yep, so it's $260 a year. So, right, I did some of the math on it because I was watching this yesterday, and that's a 13% increase, which I understand because it hasn't gone up, in some time there's going to be an increase. That just feels like a lot to put on people now. And one of the perks of being an employee, right, is of a county or a government.
Sure.
I mean, did people give you feedback about that?
Yes.
Why join the county? We have, you have part of the reclassifications or, recruitment people because we can't recruit or retain people. We don't have a pension anymore. Why?
Well, because we're significantly lower in
Sure.
our healthcare costs and contributions. We have one of the healthier plans in the state.
Sure.
We still do.
Yeah.
And we, just so we know too, all of our plans, they don't have deductibles either. So
Right.
there's no other increases in their deductibles.
So to that, isn't all this stuff going to change in January 2023, or it's going out to bid?
We're just
or
going out to
something
bid
new?
for
Yeah.
the carriers. We may
Right.
add a few extra plans. We're not taking any plans away, but we may provide other options for those folks that might be interested in a high deductible plan. But we
Yeah.
just have to go out to bid for our carriers. Plan design was been very clear to us with the unions in our employee base that they are very comfortable with the PPO 1 and PPO 2, but we do want to offer some other additional options for those employees that might be used to a high deductible plan or HMO or whatever they might need.
Okay. And you said this is part of the 5-year plan. So there's this, $10 a pay period, so $260 a year increase. So that's like 13%.
And that's
Then-
pre-tax, because all of our contributions on benefits are pre-tax dollars. So
Okay.
it's a little bit less depending.
Okay. So there's that. And then what is the next couple
Sure,
parts of
and I can
change?
email you guys,
Yeah.
email the commission the 5-year plan that we had discussed. But in that plan, over the course of 5 years, we're looking at a bunch of what we call internal controls, again, going out for bid, looking at things behind the scenes, different programs that our prescription carriers can provide, everything, audits, things that we can do behind the scenes. And then in 2023, in the plan was a change into the employee contribution. In 2024, we don't have any additional employee support in that model. And then in 2025, we're looking at an increase in our drug copay. And then in 2026, a potential increase in employee contributions, again, depending on the benefits task force and what we look at.
And again, these increases are predicated on a 5-year plan, not because there's a constraint with our insurance plan that we need more money now to get something better. This is $260 more a year for what we have. We're keeping what we have. Okay. All right.
Okay, Commissioner Kowal. Followed by
Madam Chair.
Commissioner Powell.
Just curious as to why I don't want to put any undue hardships on anybody, but if you have like a family plan, it goes up $10. if you're just one person, it goes up $10. Shouldn't that be more proportional to how many people are on the plan? I was told early on when we first started doing this, I was on the Board of Commissioners when we started the per pay deductions, and some people suggested at the time that the people that make six figures should pay proportionately more than the people who made less, and was told that it was unconstitutional to charge some people more or less for the same service. So I'm just wondering why, if I'm a single person and I've got this plan, I'm happy as heck for the plan, but or two. But if you have a family of six, say, and they're paying $10 more per paycheck. So, and the one person is doing the same.
Sure.
How does that, I mean, I'm just not understanding how that all works.
So I'm glad that you asked that question. So again, one of the things that I think was one of the most beneficial things that we did is start this employee benefits task force, because we were able to hear the voice of our employees. So we made sure on that benefits task force that not only did we have, non-union representation, union representation, but we looked at people who've been here a couple years. We looked at people who've been here for a long time. Make sure we had people on there that had family plans, had single plans. We actually had that conversation. We talked about salary banding. We talked a little bit about how, when you take a look at, again, when you have somebody who has a family versus somebody who's a single person. And resoundingly, the benefits task force, and then later confirmed with all my union conversations. As you know, I've been working with all of the unions to do their their union negotiations and their new contracts. That is not, they didn't like that. They didn't like the salary banding. They felt at this point, since it's been so long since we had looked at, increasing contributions, that they felt that they wanted everybody, it was more amenable to have everybody have the same for now. I'm not saying that going forward we would continue to do that, but that was where, that's the employee, it was very, throughout the whole committee, it was very consistent, and it was consistent in the conversations following that with our unions as well. So we did talk about that, and it just.
Well, I just brought up the what you call the salary banding in the way of history.
Yeah.
I actually was starting out referring more to the, the family versus the individual,
Both.
and they're paying the same increase.
Yeah, so that was, we had
And
the
they're
same.
good with that?
That was, again, the recommendation we made were based on their feedback on that. So we had those discussions about kind of readjusting the family versus the single as well, and it was the same conversation.
Okay, thank you.
I know. It's a
That
good
was a good question. Thank you, Commissioner Cowell. Commissioner Powell.
So mine is kind of in tie with Commissioner Cowell, but one of my concerns were the people who are kind of lower salary. You know what I mean? And I just was wondering, was in your task force, was it still a concern just from them, but were they just more accepting because that's like the new wave and change, or what was the feedback from them, the lower staff?
Sure. I mean, we didn't specifically ask, I didn't reach out specifically to ask them, but they were
Well, I
all
just
fairly
didn't know if they
vocal.
were
Yeah.
around the table
Yeah, they
as
were.
far as position.
Yeah, we made sure that we had all levels there, but we
Right,
had.
so what was the feedback from those individuals in that
I mean, I
lower
didn't
salary
specifically
band?
ask those, but again, the consistency on the feedback loop was the same. In fact, it was interesting that, for those that didn't feel comfortable talking in the group, we had many that would call us personally to tell us how they were feeling about that, so. We have a lot of work to do on that still, though. I mean, it was just right now. I think we needed to get them used to having these conversations and kind of understand where we were in the culture of the organization.
So at the same time, we are being cautionary just with our, lower salary employees, though, as far as things
Sure.
that okay.
We're
Just
trying.
wanted it on record. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Powell. Commissioner Cavell?
Yeah, you bring up a good point. So actually, when listening to this yesterday, I went out to go to the cafeteria downstairs, and the folks in this office over here, the kind of fishbowl treasury thing, I just was walking and stumbled across eavesdropping on them talking while I was walking by them, and they said, the employees there said, hey, if you need more money, you can always DoorDash on the weekends. So I just want to lift that up as,
Sure.
I know that 13 or 11 or 8% increase might not sound that big for a lot of us, but to the 300-400 of us that work at the county that have a salary of less than $50,000 a year, that's a big deal. especially when you couple it with the DTE rate hike of 9%, as we're about to have a cold winter, as you couple it with the 8% CPI inflation index. It just feels like if we're not doing this with, if there isn't like a need to do this now, right? I get there's a plan, and I get that it could cost more later. Feels like there's, this might, why not do it next year? That's, not really a question, but just trying to frame it.
Sure.
Put a fact out.
Okay. Anybody else have any questions or comments? Seeing none, let's prompt the vote, please.
Yeah.
About it. Gotta pick our battles.
All right.
Oh, wait, I got another one.
Sorry, I didn't know we were at that part.
Yep, we're voting.
You have 8 yeas and 1 nay.
Okay, motion carries. Who was the one nay?
Someone's got to care about working people. I don't know.
in charge, yeah.
Yeah, Carol's in charge.
Yeah, oh, no, he's.
I'm going to send him to a drain board meeting.
Madam Chair,
Okay.
do you post the vote on the screen?
It is on the screen.
There it is. Thank you very much.
Okay. I would like to note that Commissioner Gershenson has arrived. She is an ex officio member of this committee, so she's going to sit in with us.
Thank you.
Next up, we have item 9D, Human Resources, Resolution Adopting Compensation Adjustments for County Commissioners for the 2023 and 2024 terms of office. I need a motion. Commissioner McGilvery, supported by, I need somebody gonna,
Oh, I'm sorry.
Commissioner Charles.
I was being nosy, listening to Eileen.
Sorry.
It's okay. All right, we have a motion on the floor. Hello again.
Hello. I'm, again, April Lynch, Deputy County Executive. I have Heather Mason, who is on the line, who is our supervisor over compensation, and she typically leads this session, so she's going to give you a quick overview of the role of this particular resolution. Heather, are you available to speak?
I am. Good afternoon. Before you is a resolution to implement the adopting a compensation adjustment for commissioners for the 2023-2024 term of office. As you're aware, Public Act 261 of 1966 states that the compensation for the Board of Commissioners has to be fixed by a resolution to be effective with the commencement of the new term of office. The last time the Board of Commissioners had voted for salaries was miscellaneous resolution 2662. And so before you is the resolution to adopt a 5% general compensation adjustment for Board of Commissioners members effective January 1, 2023, and a 3% compensation adjustment effective January 1, 2024.
Okay, and with that, I will open it up to the commission.
Well, with healthcare going up, sounds like a good idea.
Anybody have any comments? Commissioner Gershenson.
Okay, so I will make a motion to follow that recommendation.
Oh, I think they already have.
Or we don't need it?
We have it.
We have it.
We have it.
Good.
We're good. Commissioner McGilvery.
Yeah, I just want to make a comment. I'm going to support this, and the reason I'm supporting it, if we're giving 5% to all the employees and all the other elected officials, which is the next item on the agenda, I think it's only fair that the commissioners get the same thing. most people just think that we just come here for meetings a couple times a week and that's it. Well, I can tell you that I spend a lot of time reading agendas, as well as other events around. So it's not like we're not doing our jobs. So I just want to point that out.
I appreciate that, Commissioner. Commissioner Long.
All right, so I figured out, I think it was, I don't know if we make 36,000, is that about it?
That's about right.
So it's about $1,800 per year.
That's gross.
Yeah, gross. And then, so did you guys, what is the total cost of having this 5% for the commissioners for the increase? What's the county's total cost, you know? Well, I guess it's $1,800 times 21. Yeah.
Well, no,
Well, it'll only be
times
19.
What?
It'll be times 19.
Oh, times 19, yeah. All right. I can figure it out. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Powell.
I'm just gonna go on record and say that I am in support of this, especially because I am a very hardworking commissioner, just like any of my other commissioners, but I am the district that has the most problems as a district as far as the cities that I govern. And when COVID was in place, we agreed to not take no raises. Because of the stipulations and things that was going on. And with inflation and everything else, and every workforce is looking at salary increases, we are workers as well too. So I think the same should be for any elected officials as well. So I am 100% in support of this. So I just wanted that to be on the record. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Cavell.
Well, I just, what was being talked about just made me think of, I think there's been talk of having a commission of some sort or something, because this conversation of commissioners figuring out our own paycheck feels yucky. But from talking to folks, they lifted up that, you know, this is our job, so we ought to do it. So I just want to mention that when we think about having a commission to like take the fall or bear the burden. Does our job, and it's good that it happens in public, and then we all feel yucky doing it, so we don't get out of hand with this. So maybe we don't need a commission.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Gershenson.
Well, this was a new concept that came up, that there would be that it was a possibility for an independent commission to look at all the other counties and come up with a recommendation. And it was because so many commissioners were just so uncomfortable talking about their own salary. So it is something that is on the table. It hasn't been decided, but it'll take a while to put together an independent commission of maybe 3 people that would make this recommendation to us.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, I think that's our job.
Commissioner Charles, thank you.
Thanks. I hear all of my colleagues, and I appreciate their perspectives. One thing I want to always keep in mind, too, is that it's sometimes hard to find people to run for office because they have to step away from their careers. We meet a lot during the day. You can look at the primaries and see that it wasn't a whole bunch of people, you know, rushing to be on the commission. And sometimes that does have a little bit to do with just them having to decide, do I keep my $120,000 a year job, or do I go and be a commissioner for whatever we get? So I just want us to be mindful of that, because sometimes it is a deterrent to get good quality people to even run for these offices.
Absolutely.
So that's all I got.
Thank you, Commissioner. Anybody else? I am in support of this. There's been a lot of good points brought up. Nobody likes to talk about, gee, I should have a raise, okay? But the reality is we do work very hard at these jobs, as Commissioner Powell pointed out. They're very wide-ranging. You have to, excuse me, you have to learn a lot about a lot of things to do this job right. And 5% is what everybody else is getting based on the current economy and the picture going forward. And I think our executive organizations have studied that, and I think it's fair. And I also agree with Commissioner Charles's point that it is hard to get quality people to run because these jobs do take a lot of time. They're part-time. But I can say for myself, I spend way more than 20 hours a week on this, between the phone calls and the meetings and the reading and everything else. And I'm happy to do it. I'm honored to be in this position. I really am. But I feel like we should be adequately compensated like everybody else. And we did give up a raise 2 years ago when everybody else got it, because we felt, the board felt that that was the right thing to do. But I think it's time to bring us up in line with what everybody else is getting. So I'm going to support this motion. Anybody else? Okay, then let's go ahead and prompt the vote.
You have 7 yeas and 2 nays.
Okay, motion carries. Thank you, everyone. Next up is a related resolution, item 9E, Human Resources Resolution, adopting countywide elected official compensation for 2023. And by countywides, we're talking about the clerk, the treasurer, the water resources commissioner, the executive, and who am I missing?
Prosecuting attorney? Sheriff.
Chair?
Sheriff and prosecuting
Oh, sheriff, right.
Prosecutor.
Sheriff and prosecutor, right.
And the prosecuting attorney.
And the prosecuting attorney, correct. Okay. So those are the positions we're talking about.
So this would be a vote for, this is voted on every year within the budget process. Yesterday, Lago had, because the county executive doesn't make a recommendation for the elected official salaries, Lago approved a 5% increase with an effective date of January 1, 2023, which would be the same effective date as the Board of Commissioners also.
Okay.
And it's important to note, in this one, it's only for 1 year. It's not for 2 years.
So we do this
It's
every
every
year
year
for the
elected
countywides, okay.
Yeah.
I need a motion. We didn't, Commissioner Powell, supported by Commissioner Gershenson. Okay. Do we have any comments, questions, discussion on this item?
This one will cause me to commissioner rate.
So with that, let's prompt the vote. And then some.
I ain't gonna say nothing.
Yeah, the county commissioner wants 34,200 would cost per year.
There's 3 of these.
Oh, that's it.
Raised.
Pennies.
Commissioners buy, you know what I mean?
It's tithing money.
You have,
Tithing. I mean, it's an estimate, I said.
Where's the tithe?
you have 6 yeas, 3 nays.
It's 10%.
Huh, okay.
Right.
A motion carries 6 yeas, 3 nays. Who are the 3? Who are the 3?
Thank you, Commissioners.
That was interesting.
Huh, okay. Thank you. All right, moving on. That was item 9 from Lago. Now we're going to move into item 10 from Public Health and Safety. I'm enjoying these votes this time.
Yes, I know.
Interesting.
Yes for yourself, but no for the others. That's a good point.
It passed.
Oh, come on. All right, we're going to move on to Public Health and Safety. Item 10A, Health and Human Services, Health Division, grant acceptance with Michigan Department of Health and Human Services for the fiscal year 2023 LHD Comprehensive Agreement. I need a motion. Commissioner Powell, supported by Commissioner Charles, and we have Leanne Stafford with us on the virtual. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, everyone. So this grant acceptance is for our funding for our mandated programs through Mdhhs. So it's an array of services from WIC to some of our environmental health, even our CSHCS, which is our Children's Special Healthcare Services, So this is an annual allocation that they give us each year. The funding kind of ebbs and flows because the state will take programs on or give them to us, and so there's funding that goes with that program. And so it changes a little bit. This is for October 1st through September 30th, October 1st, 2022 through September 30th, 2023. We are deleting 7 vacant special revenue positions, and that just has to do with funding levels and staffing to make sure that we can fund these programs as well as meet the needs of the mandates.
Okay, thank you. Anybody have any questions? Commissioner Long.
But I am going to get ruled that this is not germane to this resolution, but since you're on the phone, is the water testing machine back up working?
Oh, are you referring to the nitrates?
No, just to sample water. I mean, it's been out over a week, and for the restaurants and the businesses, they're saying, oh, nope, someone's been working on it. I mean, we're Oakland County. That should be running all the time when you bring in a water sample.
I know we were having a maintenance vendor issue of getting parts in, so it was not them, it was the parts they had to get. But let me check on that, and I'll get back to you.
Right, because it's been over a week because we went to get our water sample, and I just think that's just inappropriate for Oakland County that people can't bring in water samples, and it's been closed down for a week. I know there's private companies, but I think that's a little bit, not so good. So thank you. Just let me know.
I will follow.
Sorry, it was not germane, but I thought all you should know when people are going into handing their water samples restaurants, they're saying, no, we can't do it. So I think that's a problem. All right, thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else have questions for Ms. Stafford? A lot of money. All right. If nobody has any more questions, let's prompt the vote.
I know it wasn't germane, but I thought you guys should know.
That's fine.
Yeah, yes. I think we should take it to private, but you need to pull back, seasonal businesses.
You have 9 yeas, 0 nays.
Okay, passed unanimously. Excellent. Item 10B, Health and Human Services Health Division Grant Acceptance with Michigan Department of Health and Human Services for the fiscal year 2023 LHD Emerging Threats Agreement. I need a motion. Commissioner McGilvery, supported by Commissioner Charles. Okay.
So this grant is a little bit different this year. Instead of giving us separate grants for, say, COVID or PFAS or, any kind of other emerging disease that we may be monitoring, is they've just brought it all together in one fund and grant. So there is some COVID money in here to continue to do immunizations. We're also the regional lab or net sewer program that we use, and we've talked a lot about that as we've come through. Any kind of PFAS response that we may need to do or follow up on, the funding is in here. So this, again, runs October 1st through September 30th, and we utilize most of this funding throughout the year a lot, just as I'm sure you've heard of, monitoring polio in New York and what we need to do to get set up here as we start monitoring for that as well. So.
Okay. Anybody have any questions? Seeing none, let's go ahead and prompt the vote.
You have 9 yeas, 0 nays.
Okay, thank you. Motion carries unanimously. Next up, you're welcome. Item 10C, the Sheriff's Office Interlocal Agreement Amendment Number 3 to extend FY 2021 interlocal agreement with Oakland Community Health Network, Ochn, for medication-assisted treatment, MAT, and Jail Alliance with Support, JAWS, programming positions at the Oakland County Jail. I need a motion. Commissioner Cavell, supported by Commissioner Powell. Good afternoon. You've been patient.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. So Gay up here, Sheriff Fiscal Officer. We're asking you to approve the extension to our agreement with OCHN. It's a slight increase to $303,335 for this year. It continues one full-time inmate caseworker 2 part-time inmate caseworkers and 1 full-time inmate caseworker specialist. What's different about this is in prior years, they only paid for salaries and not fringe benefits, and now they've increased the funding to cover the fringes as well, so we're excited about that. So. And we have Marcus Merrill here. He's the supervisor over program services. If you have any programmatic questions, he can answer those.
Okay. Anybody have any questions? Wow, they waited all this time. Nobody's going to ask them a question.
Don't go in the water.
Okay, well, if nobody's got any questions for these folks or comments, let's prompt the vote.
Yes. A lot going on.
Do you have 9 yeas, 0 nays?
All right, motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. All that.
Have a good day.
Only a couple were 9-0 today. Yeah.
About the JAWS program.
Yeah, the jaws.
Something fishy about the JAWS program.
Yeah. LOL. That is a good one.
That was Commissioner Moss's joke.
It sounds like a Moss joke.
All right.
The bite on it.
We will miss it.
Into the home stretch. Next up is item 11 out of the Economic Development and Infrastructure Committee recommendations that took place this morning. Item A is the full faith and credit pledge to issue bonds for improvements to the Evergreen Farmington sanitary drainage system. I need a motion. Commissioner Cavell, supported by Commissioner Powell. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Sid Lockhart, Special Project Manager and Deputy for Water Resource Commissioner. With me, I have Laura Bass from Dickinson Wright, our bond counsel, and also Steve Burke, MFCI, our financial advisor. This is a culmination of years of improvements in our Evergreen Farmington system to get out of our compliance order with the state of Michigan. The district has their own with the state of Michigan, also local communities do. And they decided years ago local communities would combine and have a regional effort in order to undertake this and get us, out of the state's thumb on this thing. And we're looking to do a series of projects for $135 million, asking for a full faith and credit pledge of the county. And it's going to be a series of bonds. We were notified about 2 or 3 weeks ago from the SRF, Department of Eagle, that interest rate of this loans that we're pursuing is 1.875%. And we're in the middle of going through an extensive application process right now to secure that. And I believe there's about a 10% principal forgiveness as part of this. And hopefully with a series of these projects that will be done with the consent order, will be lifted from us and our underlying communities. And we'll move forward with it. And what the projects are slated for deal with the 10-year, 1-hour non-growing rain event and 25-year, 24-hour growing rain event. And so with that, we're looking at buying additional capacity from Great Lakes Water Authority for 50 CFS to deal with that. The original plan was to build a tank to store that flow. And we had the agreement with GLEWA and also with the Eagle blessed it, and Detroit's involved with that and doing some separation to free that capacity for us. So it's a tri-party win-win-win agreement. Commissioner Markman's probably heard some of this on the drain board in some of these meetings. And all that wrapped up gets us where we're at today. Ask for full faith and credit pledge so we can move forward with all these improvements.
Thank you. Does anybody have any questions for these folks?
No.
Commissioner Gershenson.
Yeah, so they get the benefit of Oakland County's bond rating on this?
Yes. Yes.
Yes. And then
Yeah.
do we go out for it, or do all these individual communities go out for it, or?
The drain board will actually issue these notes, essentially. If it was a different public act, the county would. But when you have the drain board involved, the drain board issues it. And so the communities are comprised of the district. The district is a separate legal public corporation in the state of Michigan. So the drain board has authority to go out and do that once you get the full faith and credit pledge of the county. And with the state of Michigan, they don't really bank on the full faith and credit pledge. And Steve Burke can chime in here on that if I'm misspeaking here, but there will be some, at times, costs they deem ineligible. As you go through the application process, it could be 4, 5, 6 million. You just never know until you go through the process. And in case there needs to be another bond issued, then that'll have the full faith and county's full, credit pledge behind that. It'll be a lot smaller amount than what we're talking about here.
Okay, thank you.
So the point about the AAA bond rating is that we are able to borrow at very favorable rates, which what that means to the residents is as this rolls out to them in the way of assessments, as it relates to this improvement, their assessments are going to be less because we're borrowing at a better rate because of our AAA bond rating, which we are all very proud of. This is a place where it really impacts the system overall.
Thank you.
That's correct.
Thank you. Okay. Anybody else have any questions or comments? Okay, let's go ahead and prompt the vote.
You have 9 yeas, 0 nays.
Okay. Motion carries. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Have a good afternoon.
Same to you. Next up, we have our last item on the regular agenda, the item 11B, Facilities Maintenance and Operations Resolution, Building Management System Replacement Project, 6th phase. Moved by Commissioner Charles, supported by Commissioner McGilvery. We have Mr. Murphy on the visual.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Joe Murphy, Manager of Facilities Maintenance and Operations. I've got Steve Foster, our Chief Senior Project Manager on this project. The resolution that we're seeking approval for today is part of our ongoing CIP plan to replace the aging building management system there on the county. The building management system takes care of all of our cooling, air handlers, dampers, temperature controls, lighting, etc. The total project, $600,000, $520,000 for materials and installation, $70,000 for engineering services, and $10,000 in contingencies. So with that, I'll open it up for questions, and we can go from there.
Okay. Anybody have any questions for Mr. Murphy? There was a question in EDI about the overall number of phases in this project. We're talking about the 6th phase. Can you just tell us what the end looks like to this? How much farther we have to go?
Correct. This phase that we're dealing with right now is for two areas of the courthouse. The next phase would be to finish up the courthouse and move over to our last big facility, which is the jail. So we're looking at least probably 2 years there, and then a third year to wrap up any of the smaller buildings that might be out there that we need to do, and we'll have to evaluate that probably the next year and a half of where we are with the remote workforce and what we're doing with some of those buildings. So 3 to 4 years.
Okay, thank you. It's encouraging to hear that you're thinking in terms of what is the building utilization and all of that, and this will all fit together at some point. That's good. Okay. Does anybody else have any comments or questions? If not, let's prompt the vote.
Commissioner Moss?
I thought I got it. Yeah.
You have 9 yeas, 0 nays.
Okay, thank you. Motion carries. That concludes
Thank you
our.
very much.
Thank you. That concludes our regular items on the agenda. Up next is public comment. our second public comment, at which time people are invited to speak on any topic of their choice. And as before, please state your name, come to the end of the table, tell us where you live, and then you get 3 minutes.
Thank you, Commissioners. I actually have extreme concern about the digitization of all of our assets. I don't think it was right to auction off tax foreclosed property to non-citizens. That would not have been possible if our real estate information was not digitized. Did you know Russia created their own intranet and has already tested it to where they can attack the rest of the globe through cybersecurity? And not be affected themselves? Did you know Google Pixel 6a has a new program they call Magic Eraser, where you can erase things completely out of a digital document? What's that going to do with our deeds? I mean, this is a real security risk. There's so many things that are being done in America right now that I never would have imagined in my lifetime I would have to speak out against. Because I believe everyone has a right for the opportunity to do what they choose in America. But our rights are being whittled away on purpose, and outside, even foreign corporations and individuals are being allowed to take over our assets. On August 1st, I had heard that China purchased real estate near a nuclear plant. Not good. I also heard that there were 400 acres sold in Michigan that contained the only nickel mine in Michigan. And it was sold to Talon, and I looked them up, and they're a metals producer. That's a joint venture with Australia and Rio Tinto, whoever they are. So we have a lot of things that are going on, and even our tax dollars are not being given to American corporations. I was shocked when they did the CHIPS and Science bill for $280 billion to add to our inflation, partly because the government they're usually 10 years behind the industry, I would tell you. I used to work at a technology firm, and I would tell you what we're implementing for our solar panels on the Pontiac Health, it's not energy efficient. It requires a separate source of energy 24/7. I did actual analysis, cost-benefit analysis, on whether you could convert to electricity on plants or solar on plants for a manufacturing company. Except for Mexico, nowhere in North America was it a cost-benefit positive. So I would like to know, first of all these IT programs where we're digitizing everything we have, you have to have cybersecurity insurance, and back in April 29th of 21, I had looked up the insurance company you had as a carrier, and it was not licensed with the state of Michigan. Now, when I was an insurance person, that meant if that company went bankrupt, you had no coverage. So I am very concerned about this entire, hurry up, let's digitize it all, because then anywhere in the globe, they can fraudulently take our assets from us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. If there is there any other business? Commissioner Powell.
I just have some information I need to share with my colleagues. So just to let everybody know, and I am going to share this overall with all commissioners at our meeting on the 29th, but I was contacted by one of my constituents, and actually a total of 9 of them. They all attended the expungement fair that our prosecutor hosted. And again, the expungement fair was a very successful event. What is the issue is that these 9 individuals were now ready to show up in court at their hearing date that was provided by our court system, our judges and stuff, and their court dates was declined because the AG office, it's another step in that process that they have to get a verdict, I guess, from the AG office, and that information is sitting directly to the courts, right? And because the judges hadn't received that information, they canceled their hearing dates. Well, of course, we all know that these people have been trying to get clean slated. You know, now they get the opportunity. It was like a good motivation that they had a date. And then to go to your hearing and your date is canceled, we know that that may put them in a different mind space. What I want to tell you all is I did reach out to the AG's office. They are aware. It's just a delay. There is a delay, so I want you to continue to encourage your constituents. Do not give up. Just reach out to the judges within like 30, maybe 60 days of that original date that got canceled, just to touch base to get another hearing date. They also can call the AG's office to find out the status of where that paperwork is that the courthouse needs, prior to them maybe reaching out to that judge to get a new date. So I just want to put that all on your radars, just in case you all get any you know, constituents calling, they stressed out about the situation. Please tell them, do not give up, continue to fight, wait for their hearing date, and they will eventually get one. And then you all know, and I'm just telling my commissioners, if y'all get into this, if y'all get notified by this, please just reach out to AG so then y'all can get the proper direction to advise that constituent. And I want to commend our AG's office. They got back with me very, very quickly. So thank you to our Attorney General's office, and then also to our prosecutor, Karen McDonald. They're looking into the matter so that they can kind of better advise us to advise our constituents, be it that they're going to continue to be in contact with the AG, just in case we get any kickback, because for for the constituents, they were a little depressed about it, but I could enlighten them and make them feel a little better that the process is still in process. So I just wanted to share that information with you all, just in case you get constituent calls. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Anybody else got anything they want to bring up? If not, I will call this meeting adjourned at 12:50.